There is nothing worse than starting to read a manhwa and getting stuck on a cliffhanger. So here are 10 manhwas that have already finished and you need to read. But hey, before we start, don't forget to subscribe. Our MC suffers from a deep fear of women. Unfortunately, this fear makes him nervous and drives him to have several accidents. Although he has created techniques to avoid his calamities, he just can't avoid them and is labeled as a pervert. After another day of failure, our MC finally seeks to change his situation for good. With the help of a close friend, they'll train to reduce their fear and shame. Skill of Lure is a very simple manhwa, with jokes connected to his traumatic experience with women, but at the same time, it is sympathetic to the trauma and fear of rejection, which is really common in our time. Yan is prepared to commit suicide on the 25th. First, he watched the anime adaptation of his favorite game and then jump off the building. He has nothing left in his life. His entire family has died. Because he's a shutting, no one wants him around anymore, so he no longer has any reason to keep trying. But unfortunately, not everything goes according to his plans. Some of his neighbors start to have strange symptoms and soon turn into monsters. Even those who wish to die will have to fight for their lives. The work is definitely a rereading on the zombies genre, which in this case are monsters, but goes far beyond just a survival story. Instead, it delves into the protagonist's past and what it means to be family. Is it those who have your blood or those who wish to be with you? Sweet Home for me is a masterpiece. Made by the same creator of Buster and Shotgun Boy. It has even been adapted as a series on Netflix, but it's not for every reader. It has a sober story which, although it has action, will often punch you in the stomach and leave you breathless. Although he didn't have much money, Kim worked hard to become a surgeon, but several wrong decisions caused him to go bankrupt and lose his marriage. During his life as a doctor, he saved several lives, including that of a goddess, which offered him to go to the past and have a new opportunity. Relax, that's the only fantasy part of the story. The entire manhwa is very down to earth and becomes focused on medicine. Now King has a new opportunity to finally be a great dermatologist and make a hell lot of money. The manhwa is pretty simple, but let's be honest, how many of those Return to the Past manhwas have you seen the end of? Not only does this one have an end, but the entire journey is pretty fun. While it has a bit of action, it's a lot more a slice of life with bits and pieces of magical challenges. It is an excellent piece for anyone who digs into magical series. Yutaba is a true nerd. His devotion was YouTubers and K-popers, to the point of being responsible for filming several concerts. But one day, during an interview, he mixed two words that made it sound like he was a pervert. This simple slip destroyed his life, being persecuted and humiliated by the people he most admired. Then, after suffering from the fear of going out on the street, one day, while sleeping, he was summoned to another world. Unlike any other isekai, he was teleported to be a temporary summon. The skinny boy with no powers would find that in this world, he would be as powerful as Saitama from One Punch Man. However, his powers only exist in this other world. After each battle, he is sent back to his ordinary life. Her Sama is an action and humor manhwa that draws a lot of inspiration from the nonsense of One Punch Man. In addition, the plot connects well with our MC motivation, which is formed because of his trauma. Bastard is one of the best thrillers in the manhwa world. From the start, you're presented with an uneasy interaction between Jim, his dad, and his private teacher. It's impossible to pinpoint precisely the origin of this shade atmosphere, but you feel something lurking in the dark until BAM! Our MC whacks the private tutor. It is not clear at the start why Jim did that, but you can see that he's uncomfortable with the act. As you start diving into our MC's life, it is clear that there is a lot more behind the plot of Bastard. Jim is a gloomy kid, and he's bullied because of his body condition. He suffered an accident as a kid, losing an eye and destroying his heart valves. His private life isn't a lot better. Jim hates his father to his guts, and there is no trace of a mother figure in his life. Oof, well, that's a lot. But if you're like me and love a deep and dark story, it is one of the best picks. Bastard knows how to reel in the reader, showing little by little what the plot revolves around and eventually tying all the loose ends. Besides that, Bastard is a showcase of how a thriller should be. Every aspect of the manhwa is crafted to make you shiver down the spine, from the mind-bender story to the illustrations of despair. Kim is a prosecutor who, in the search of justice, was murdered. What he built would be destroyed, and he would be accused of overdosing, but the gods had another plan. Kim was able to make a meaningful impact, so they would send him back to life once more. This time he would return 10 years before his death, and he must live up to the expectations of the goddess who gave him another chance. Now Kim will have to find and arrest those who control the government. The concept of Again My Life is straightforward. There are several others with the same structure. However, its execution is what sets it apart. It has a good pace and knows how to capture your attention on every cliffhanger. Even though the art looks quite amateurish to my taste, the quality of the story held me until the end. Johan knows everything about Daejung, where she lives, what she eats, and who her friends are. What Johan doesn't understand is that he's a stalker. Even though all of that, he is unable to get close to Daejung. He doesn't know why, he doesn't even have all of his memories. But he knows that he has to protect her at any cost. On the other side of the board, we have a villain with no memories and motives. But he knows that he must kill Daejung at any cost. Who does Daejung's future belongs to? Its mind is a psychological manhwa that will keep you in suspense for the next chapter. The plot and mysteries are very well worked out, allowing you to create different theories and still be surprised. The only scene of its mind is that once you're done, you want to read even more. Yan was just an ordinary person looking for a new job. Finally, after another day of job hunting, he goes to sleep exhausted. When he wakes up, he is in the body of Jin Seong, a prince from the Joseon era. Now Yan is wealthy and can live the life he always desired, being able to rest at will and eat as much as he wants. What I didn't remember is that in Korean history, Prince Jin Seong was brother of Yeon Sung-gun, one of the greatest tyrants in the country's history. Also, he would be murdered in the future because of a battle for the throne. Now, Yeon will have to find a solution to the challenge between the brothers. My Royal Awakening is a fascinating historical manhwa, presenting some small pieces of Korean history. It also has a great art that makes all the attire worn in the period and the palaces featured even more delightful. The creator made the great choice of ending it in 88 chapters, and have a well-finished plot instead of trying to wind up and create new meaningless arcs. Woochi always accepted that he would be bullied, but after one of the worst days of his life, he was ready to give up. He went to the bridge and was prepared to jump to end it all. At this moment, on the verge of death, W emerges, a second personality that wants to change Woochi's life. W is determined to finish all of those threatening other students. He publicly challenges one by one and brutally advances to his next opponent. This is the journey of Pounding, a man with a brutal fighting and a protagonist whose duality is so extreme that he becomes two different personalities. It's a fantastic story with impactful scenes which will hook you until the end. Park was always taught by his father that he should live with honor. So on his first day in school, he puts the teaching into practice when he sees one of the students being beaten up. With a single punch, he takes down the attacker. What Park didn't know was that this bully is the son of one of the most famous businessmen in Korea. Because of that, he was expelled from school. But still Park went on with his life, working and helping his father. Until one day, the same person responsible for expelling him from school runs over and murders Park's father, causing a rage into the boy and nearly beating the asshole to death in search of revenge. Park is arrested but promises himself that he will get the revenge he seeks. He'll create a bigger and more powerful company, and one day they will come to their knees before him. Italian Class is so good that it is even being adapted into a Netflix series. However, it still remains better in the manhwa format. It's a sad and hard story which shows a difficult life, but an infinite will to overcome barriers. It was one of the fastest manhwas that I've read, staying awake all night just to find out what would happen in the next chapter. I highly recommend you read it. Well, this is the top 10. Leave below in the comments if there is any manhwa that has already ended and I haven't talked about it and why it is so good. For more content about anime, manga and manhwa, click on the subscribe button and see ya weebs!